So we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 13, entitled The Ecstatic Dancing of the Lord at Rath Yatra. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. A summary of this chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya as follows. After bathing early in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the deities of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra get aboard their three cars. This function is called Pandu Vijay. At that time, King Patraparudra took a broom with a golden handle and began to cleanse the road. Lord Jagannath took permission from the goddess of fortune and then started in the car for a Gundicha temple. The road to the temple led along a broad, sandy beach, and on both sides of the road were residential quarters, houses, and gardens. Along that road, the servants, called Gaudas, began to pull the cars. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu divided his kirtan party into 7 divisions, with 2 mridangas in each division. There were altogether 14 mridangas. While performing kirtan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited various symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, and Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exchanged their feelings very blissfully. When the cars reached a place known as Bhalagandi, the devotees offered the deities simple food. At this time, in a nearby garden, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates took a brief rest from the dancing. Sajiyat Krishna Chaitanya Shri Rathagre Mamartaya Yenaji Jagatam Chitram Jagannati Vishmitaha. Translation. May the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who danced in front of the car of Jagannath, be all glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. All glories to Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the listeners of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Please hear the description of the dancing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Rath Yatra festival. His dancing is very enchanting. Please hear of it with great attention. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates got up in the dark and attentively took their early morning baths. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates then went to see the ceremony of Pandu Vijay. During this ceremony, Lord Jagannath leaves his throne and gets up onto the car. So, one time I went to the Jagannath Rath Yatra in Puri. First time I went. This was in 1986. So first they bring out Balaram. Why is Balaram first? He's older. So older should go first, right? So he comes out, Lord Jagannath. And it'll be described how, they bring him out. And then there's this ramp. It's high. The cart up from the ground to the level is very high. And they have logs strapped together, and it's like a big ramp that Lord Jagannath goes up. Who's been to Rath Yatra here? Who's been to Rath Yatra? Itna आदमी Rath Yatra nahi dekha? Hare Bhavadi. 50% of your life is wasted. So Balaram, the Daityapatis, they're pretty strong. Later on, Prabhupada describes what caste they're supposed to come from, but they come from different castes. But originally, they were sabars. Sabar means they used to keep pigs, and they were the ones that worshipped Nilamadhava in the mountain, right? So, very strong guys. And there must be 50, 60 of them. So the Balaram's at the bottom of the ramp. So he starts to go up. And the Daityapatis, they're, trying to get him up. Because Balaram's heavy. So he gets up about halfway up the ramp, and then Balaram starts to turn. And all the Daityapatis are shouting, Hare, Hare, he's coming down, and he just spins around and comes back down to the bottom. Then they discuss among themselves what to do. So again, they start to bring Balaram up the ramp. And he gets about 3/4 of the way up, and they're shouting and sweat's pouring off of him, And then again he starts to turn. And all the Daityapatis are shouting and screaming, Hare! And he just turns like this. He spins around 2 times. He's at the bottom of the ramp again. So this time they put ropes. They gave the ropes up to the persons that were standing on top of the cart, and again, with great effort, heavy, attempt, they finally got Lord Balaram up to the top of the cart. And the whole public, thousands and thousands of people, they went, Haribo! Then Subhadra came out. She went right up. So I was standing there thinking, if they had so much trouble with Balaram, what's going to happen with Lord Jagannath? Okay? So Lord Jagannath comes out, and he goes right up the cart and comes to the top with no problem at all. Jagannath Swami ki. So these are the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Who can understand? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his prominent devotees, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu and others, were very happy to observe how Lord Jagannath began the Rath Yatra. The very strongly built Daityas were as powerful as drunken elephants. They manually carried Lord Jagannath from the throne to the car. Purport. The word Daitya refers to one who has received the mercy of the Lord. Lord Jagannath has a number of stalwart servants known as Deities. These servants do not come from very high caste families, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, or Vaishyas, but because they are engaged in the service of the Lord, they've been elevated in a respected position. Thus, they are known as Deities. Deities. These servants of Lord Jagannath take care of the Lord from the day of the Snan Yatra up to the time the Lord is carried from the throne to the Rath car. In the Kshatriya Mahatmya, these Daityas are said to come from the Sabars, a caste that keeps and sells pigs. However, among the Daityas, there are also many who come from the Brahmin caste. These Daityas coming from the Brahmin families are called Daityapatis, or leaders of the Daityas. The Daityapatis offer food such as sweetmeats to Lord Jagannath during the Anavasar, the resting period after Snan Yatra. They also make the early morning offerings of sweetmeats daily. It is said that during the Anavasar, Lord Jagannath suffers from fever and that the Daityapatis offer him an infusion of drugs represented by fruit juice. It is said in the beginning Lord Jagannath was worshipped by the Sabars and was known as the deity Nilamadava. Later, when the deity was established in the temple, the Lord became known as Jagannath. Because the deities were taken from the Sabars, all the Sabar devotees were elevated to the position of Daityas. While carrying the deity of Lord Jagannath, some of the Daityas took hold of the shoulders of the Lord, and some caught his lotus feet. The Lord, the Jagannath deity, was bound at the waist by a strong, thick rope made of silk. From two sides, the Daityas caught hold of the rope and raised the deity. Strong, puffed-up cotton pads called tulis were spread out from the throne to the car, and the heavy deity of Lord Jagannath was carried from one pillow pad to the next by the Daityas. While the Daityas carried heavy Jagannath deity from one pad to the next, some of the pads broke and the cotton contents floated in the air when they broke. They made a heavy cracking sound. Lord Jagannath is the maintainer of the whole universe. Who can carry him from one place to another? The Lord moves by his personal will just to perform his pastimes. While the Lord was transported from the throne to the car, tumultuous sounds were made on various musical instruments. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting, Manima, Manima, but he could not be heard. The word Manima is used to address a respectable person in Orissa. Lord Jagannath was being respectfully addressed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. While the Lord was being carried from the throne to the car, King Prataparudra personally engaged in the Lord's service by cleaning the road with a broom that had a golden handle. The king sprinkled the road with sandalwood-scented water. Although he was the owner of the royal throne, he engaged in menial service for the sake of Lord Jagannath. This is the culture set by the kings, is that although they're the king, they realize that they're subservient to the Supreme Lord. They're not greater than the Lord or equal to the Lord. They're also the servant of the Lord, and just to so that everybody understands that, they came, King Prataparudra came and swept the Lord, right? Street sweepers aren't considered to be very high on the social ladder, right? वो झाड़ू मारता है. Well, he's not considered a very big person. वो झाड़ू मारने वाला कोई बड़ा आदमी नहीं है, right? But here we see the king. He's sweeping the road for Lord Jagannath's cart. So this is a lesson that nobody's equal to Krishna and nobody's greater than Krishna. So the king, by his demonstration of sweeping the road, he established that fact. And that pleased Lord Chaitanya very much. Upon seeing the king engaged in such menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. Simply by rendering this service, the king received the mercy of the Lord. Purport: unless one receives the mercy of the Lord, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or engage in his devotional service. This is from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 14, text 29. Atapi te deva padambuja dhaya prasada le sanukrita evahi janati tatram bhagavan mahima nachanya ekopi chiram pichinniram. A devotee who has received even a small fraction of the mercy of the Lord can understand him. Others may engage in theoretical speculation to understand the Lord, but they cannot know anything about him. Although Maharaj Bhattaparudra was very eager to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord refused to see him. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the king engaged in menial service for Lord Jagannath, he became very happy. Thus the king became eligible to receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. If a devotee accepts Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a universal guru and Lord Jagannath as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is benefited by the combined mercy of Krishna and Guru. That is stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 9, text 151. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. The seed of devotional service fructifies and becomes a transcendental creeper. Finally, it reaches the lotus feet of the Lord in the spiritual sky. This seed is obtained by the mercy of the Lord and the Guru. By the Lord's mercy, one gets the association of a bona fide Guru, and by the mercy of the Guru, one gets a chance to remember devotional service. Devotional service, render devotional service. Devotional service, the science of Bhakti Yoga, carries one from this material world to the spiritual world. So it's compared to like a creeper. You don't see around Bombay but very much, but if you go in the villages in the summertime, they have these plants that grow up the side of the houses. Saw that? They grow up. And when the plant gets to the roof of the house, it begins to have flowers and, you know, like sabjis come. Loki, kumra, in the village. You saw? So the devotional service is like that. Right? Planting the seed, it comes from the spiritual master, right? The Bhakti Lata Bij. And that plant grows. But in order for a plant to grow, what does it require? Pani. Right? So you have to water the plant nicely. And what is that watering of the plant compared to? Hearing and chanting. Okay, that's the water that causes this seed to fructify and grow. So if you continue to put water on the Bhakti Lata Beach, the plant will grow and grow and grow, right? All the way up to the lotus feet of Krishna in the spiritual world. Just like that plant grows all the way up to the roof of the house. Right? And once it reaches there, just like an ordinary plant, flowers come, and from flowers, the vegetables like Loki and Kumra and all these other things. In the same way, when the plant reaches the lotus feet of Krishna, it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the blossoms of love of Godhead sprout, or they grow, and they bloom, right? And the fruits of love of Godhead become established, which is Anandam Buddhivardhanam Patipadam, an ocean of happiness. This is what we're looking for. People are looking for happiness in this material world. Very nice house, nice wife, nice family, right? Bibi, bungalow, bacha. This is what they're looking for. But none of these things are really going to bring us happiness. Not the kind of happiness that we want. We want an ocean of happiness. We're looking for an ocean of happiness. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. But guess what? It's not available here in the material world. Sorry. Krishna clearly says, Dhukalaya. What is it? So how are you going to make it Sukhalaya? It's Dhukalaya. You know? It's a place of suffering. As soon as you get a material body, you suffer. You come out of the womb, you're not laughing. You don't come out of the womb, kabhi nahi hote hain. You come out of the womb, what do? You're crying. Suffering. Prabhupada says that this so-called enjoyment in this material world is just trying to mitigate the suffering. Right? Like I have this fan here. I'm enjoying this fan, right? No. Because I'm suffering from the heat, the Bombay humidity. It's so humid, right? It intensifies the heat. So to get some relief from the heat, therefore we make a fan. To make the fan, you have to have a factory. People have to go to the factory. You have to have parts, plastic parts, right? After some time, we throw away this fan. It all breaks apart, goes in the ocean. The fish eat the small particles of plastic. That people eat the fish. Varsova, they love the fish over in Varsova. They really like the fish. The fish smell comes inside. And inside the fish, small particles, microparticles of plastic. And those microparticles of plastic get lodged in your liver, your gallbladder, and create so many medical problems. Huh? So we think it's enjoyment. Just that's our poor fund of knowledge. It's foolishness. Huh? So, what is enjoyment? People don't know what is enjoyment. They never experienced real enjoyment. But if we follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can experience real enjoyment, unending enjoyment, absolute enjoyment, not subjective enjoyment of this material world. So this is what we can learn from this particular chapter. Everyone was astonished to see the decorations of the Rath Yatra car. The car appeared to be newly made of gold, and it was high as Mount Sumeru. Purport. In the year 1973, there was a gorgeous Rath Yatra festival in London, England, and the car was brought to Trafalgar Square. The London daily newspaper, The Guardian, published a front-page photo caption, and it said, ISKCON Rath Yatra is a rival to the Nelson Column in Trafalgar Square. The Nelson Column is a very impressive statue of Lord Nelson and can be seen from a good distance, just as the residents of Puri, compared to the Rath Yatra car to Mount Meru, the residents of London considered the car rival to the Nelson Monument. When Srila Prabhupada had read that newspaper article glorifying Lord Jagannath's cart and rivaling the Nelson column, Lord Nelson, he was a famous admiral in the Navy or something, you know. Trafalgar was a battle or something. So Srila Prabhupada was very happy. But there's some more to this story. The devotee that organized that Rath Yatra, his name is Mahavishnu. He was a new devotee. And just at that time, one of his family members died, and he got a big inheritance, right? So he spent all that money making the Rath Yatra cart, organizing the whatever money he had, right? And it never dawned on him that I should keep this money for my old age, or I should, use this for myself. No. He was very happy to spend it for organizing the Rath Yatra cart. And when Srila Prabhupada commented on the newspaper article, then he even got more happiness that his service was recognized in such a nice way by Srila Prabhupada. And not only that, it's immortalized forever in the pages of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. How fortunate can you be? How fortunate. So when you give to Krishna, you're never the loser. Just like when the fruit vendor, she gave so many fruits from her basket to Lord Krishna. And so when she turned, she saw that her basket was filled with jewels. Right? Now, we're not after jewels, but the symptoms of love of Godhead are just like jewels. So if you serve Krishna, you can experience the jewels of pure bhakti, which everyone is looking for, but they don't know it. Ye tamam prapadyante tatam stajaiva bhajavdimaham. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I will reward them accordingly. And the highest reward that one can obtain is pure love for Krishna. Everything else is simply time pass. Like when you go on the train, there's a guy selling peanuts, right? Because everybody's sitting in the train, they got to do something, right? So he don't say peanuts. What's he say? Time pass. Time pass. Means you can pass your time by eating the peanuts, right? Because you got to open the peanut and, So he says time pass, time pass. Everything in the material world is like that. Whatever's being advertised in the newspaper, on the billboard, on the internet, It's just time pass. That's all. Passing your time. Waiting for death. They say birthday. It's not birthday, it's death day. What's to celebrate? Tell me what's to celebrate. In my last life, I flunked the exam. So why should I be so concerned about my birthday? What happened? It's the day that I came back into the material world. My last life, I blew it. Engage your mind in thinking of me, become my devotee. Whoever thinks of me at the time of death never comes back to this material world. And I didn't do it. I failed the exam. I flunked. They say that in India, flunked the exam. Yeah, I flunked. Here I am in the material world. Birth, death, old age, and disease. So every year I should celebrate that? Huh? If you're in the 5th grade and you don't pass, you go back to the 5th grade. Will your parents be very happy with you if you flunked and went back to the 5th grade? Huh? So you tell me on our birthdays, what the heck are we celebrating? Kuch matlab nahi hai na? But what we do celebrate, we actually worship, is the day that the spiritual master appeared. Why? Because the spiritual master is the representative of Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva, in his mature knowledge of the Vedic literature, compiled the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. The pages of Srimad Bhagavatam are known as the Amala Puran. The Puran is completely pure. This Puran gives light. It's Krishna in the Kali Yuga. Such an important literature that people can, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, elevate themselves to the highest position and pass the exam of not having to come back here to this miserable material world. So the person who can represent Srila Vyasadeva is the spiritual master, and he should be worshipped. And on his appearance day, we worship him as the representative of Srila Vyasadeva, and we celebrate Vyas Puja. Different, isn't it? Toda Fardak? Yeah. In the early days of ISKCON, I mean, there were, in the temple I joined, there were like 25, 30 devotees, you know. I can never remember celebrating a birthday of any of the devotees. In fact, I never saw that until after Prabhupada left the planet. For 15 days, the Lord had remained in a secluded place with the Supreme Goddess of Fortune and had performed his pastimes with her. The 15th day period of Anarasvara is also called Nibrita, in honor of the solitary place where the Supreme Goddess of Fortune lives. After living there for a fortnight, Lord Jagannath took permission from the Goddess of Fortune to leave. Having taken permission from the Goddess of Fortune, the Lord came out to ride on the Rath cart and perform his pastimes for the pleasure of the devotees. Purport. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that as an ideal husband, Lord Jagannath remained 15 days in a secluded place with his wife, the Supreme Goddess of Fortune. Nonetheless, the Lord wanted to come out of seclusion to give happiness to his devotees. The Lord enjoys himself in two ways, known as Swakiya and Parakiya. The Lord's conjugal love in the Swakiya Ras relates to the regulator principles observed in Dwarka, where the Lord has many married queens. But in Vrindavan, the conjugal love of the Lord is not with his married wives, but with his girlfriends, the gopis. Conjugal love with the gopis is called Parakiya Ras. Lord Jagannath leaves the secluded place where he enjoys the company of the supreme goddess of fortune in Swakiya Ras, and he goes to Vrindavan where he enjoys Parakiya Ras. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore reminds us that the Lord's pleasure is Parakiya Ras, is superior to his pleasure and Swakiya Ras. In the material world, Parakiya Ras, or loving affairs with unmarried girls, is the most degraded relationship. But in the spiritual world, this type of loving affair is considered the supreme enjoyment. In the material world, everything is but a reflection of the spiritual world, and that reflection is perverted. We cannot understand the affairs of the spiritual world on the basis of our experience in the material world. The Lord's pastimes with the gopis are therefore misunderstood by mundane scholars and word wranglers. Word wranglers. The Parakiya Ras of the spiritual world should not be discussed except by one who is very advanced in pure devotional service. The Parakiya Ras in the spiritual world and that in the material world are not comparable. The former is like gold, and the latter is like iron, because the difference between the two is so great. They cannot actually be compared. However, just as a knowledgeable person can easily distinguish from iron, gold from an iron, one who has the proper realization can easily distinguish the transcendental activities of the spiritual world from material activities. Therefore, spiritual master is required to know what is what and what is the difference. In Los Angeles, there was a group of devotees. They thought that the highest is to be absorbed in the mentality of the gopis, right? So they were going to only talk about the gopis. They were only going to read the part of the Krishna book that was about the gopis, right? And there was this group of devotees in Los Angeles. This was 1973, 74, something like that. So some devotees thought we should tell Srila Prabhupada about this group of devotees. And they were called the Gopi Baba Club, right? And what it was premature Raganuga Bhakti. There's two types of bhakti. One is the regulated principles of devotional service, and one is spontaneous devotional service. So these devotees were artificially thinking that they were on the platform of spontaneous devotional service. Unless one comes to the platform of spontaneous devotional service, one is not actually worshiping Radha and Krishna. Because in order to worship Radha and Krishna, one has to be on the Rag platform, Raganuga Bhakti. But what we're worshiping is Lakshmi Narayan, right? Through the regulated principles of devotional service, under the direction of the spiritual master, we're worshiping the Lord in opulence, right? So when Srila Prabhupada came, he became very heavy with the Gopi Baba Club, and he rectified them and saved their spiritual lives. Because even today we see when there's the Bhagavad-gita, the Sapta Katha, the people go for 7 days to hear Bhagavatam. What do they talk about? Rasa Leela, right? Because in the material world, this is what people are attracted by, the Leelas, boys and girls, right? People use an attractive lady to even sell their BMW or their Porsche Audi, they put an attractive girl. People somehow think with the car, the girl comes or what, I don't know. but it sells, right? In that way, the Bhagavad-gita, talk about Rasa Leela, it sells, right? We don't do the discussion of the Lord to sell something, to attract people. That's not the point. And the Bhagavad-gita is for purification, the speaker's purification and the audience's purification. We don't do it for 7 days. Never in the Bhagavatam does it anywhere say that you should hear the Bhagavat for 7 days. What happens after 7 days? After 7 days, then you can do any damn thing you want, right? No. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. One should regularly hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Regularly. Regularly means daily. Every day one should hear the message of the Bhagavat. And that way, gradually, under the guidance of a Mahabhagavat, one can come to the platform of understanding the relationship between Radha and Krishna and actually worship Radha and Krishna. But it takes effort, it takes time, and it's not a cheap thing. It takes the mercy of the Supreme Lord and the Lord's devotees to get there. But we should know that's the goal. Everything else is time pass. Please remember, everything else is time pass. We want to get there. But in order to get there, we do everything that Srila Prabhupada told us to do. The fine white sand spread all over the path resembled the bank of the Jamuna, and the small gardens on both sides looked just like those in Vrindavan. As Lord Jagannath rode in his car and saw the beauty on both sides, his mind was filled with pleasure. The pullers of the car were known as Gaudas, and they pulled with great pleasure. However, the car sometimes went very fast and sometimes very slow. Sometimes the car would stand still and not move, even though it was pulled very vigorously. The chariot, therefore, moved by the will of the Lord and by the strength, and not by the strength of ordinary persons. As the car stood still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all his devotees and with his own hand decorated them with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati were both personally given garlands and sandalwood pulp from the very hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This increased their transcendental pleasure. Receiving things from the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very powerful. Maharaj Prataparudra wanted to meet Lord Chaitanya, but Chaitanya Maharaj refused. He said, I'm a sannyasi, how can I meet the king? Why should I meet the king? If a sannyasi should keep his character proper. Right? If he goes and meets with kings, kings are interested in women and money, right? So how can I go meet the king? How can you suggest that? But the devotees did, because the king was a devotee, and the king had such a strong desire to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one time, Lord Nityananda, he suggested a compromise, because the Lord was not ready to meet the king. But the king really he was thinking to give up the kingdom and become a beggar, become a mendicant, right? Become a mendicant. So Lord Nityananda suggested one thing. He said, why don't you give him one of your pieces of cloth, your, sannyas kapra, and he can worship that at home. So Lord Chaitanya agreed, okay. Right? But before that, he said, bring the king's son. So they told the king, Prataparudra, the Lord is calling for your son. And he was very happy. He sent his son, and the boy had a dark complexion, very young, and he was decorated with a yellow garment, and he had some jewels. And when Lord Chaitanya saw the boy, he immediately thought of Krishna. He thought immediately of Krishna. And, and he embraced the young boy, the son of Maharaj Prabhu. And as soon as the boy was embraced by Lord Chaitanya, he began to exhibit symptoms of ecstatic love of Krishna. And he began to chant, Krishna, Krishna. All the devotees were astonished at how the Lord had given his mercy. And the Lord told the boy, now you come and meet me every day. And King Maharaj Prabhu was very grateful and ecstatically happy because he had the Lord had shown his mercy to his son. So that's the reason to have a son, is to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, so that he becomes filled with ecstatic love. There's no higher position that your son or your children could attain than getting the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They may have degree, engineer, IT, or chartered accountancy, but that's now no value at all if they don't receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are planning for the education of our children, and they should have MBA or PhD or so many other things. But are we planning for them to get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? If not, then they've wasted this human form of life. Totally wasted. No value. Again, they'll flunk the exam at the time of death. Do you want them to flunk the exam? So make a plan how they can get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just as this king, Maharaj Prabhu, his son got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a plan needs to be made how to do that. And Srila Prabhupada's already chalked out the map for doing that. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur, and Vakreshwar Pandit to dance in each of the respective parties. Swarup Damodar was chosen to lead the leader of the first party and was given 5 assistants to respond to his chanting. The 5 who responded to the singing of Swarup Damodar were Damodar Pandit, Narayan, Govindadat, Raghava Pandit, and Sri Govindananda. Advaita Acharya Prabhu was ordered to dance in the first group. The Lord then formed another group with Srivas Thakur as the chief man. Purport. In the first group, Damodar Swarup was appointed the chief singer, and the responding singers were Damodar Pandit, Narayan, Govindadat, Raghava Pandit, and Govindana. Sri Advaita Acharya was appointed as the dancer. The next group was formed, and the chief singer was Srivas Thakur. The 5 singers who responded to the singing of Srivas Thakur were Gangadas, Haridas, Shriman, Sumananda, and Sri Ram Pandit. Sri Nityananda Prabhu was appointed as the dancer. Another group was formed, consisting of Vasudev, Gopinath, and Murari. All these were responsive singers, and Mukunda was the chief singer. Another 2 persons, Srikant and Balab Singh, joined as the responsive singers. In this group, the senior Haridas Thakur, was the dancer. The Lord formed another group, appointing Govinda Ghosh as the leader. In this group, the younger Haridas, Vishnu Das, and Raghava were the responding singers. 2 brothers named Madhava Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh also joined the group as responsive singers. Vakreshwar Pandit was the dancer. There was a Sankirtan party from the village known as Kalina Gram, and Ramananda and Satyaraj were appointed the dancers of this group. There was another party that came from Shantipur, and was formed by Advaitacharya. Chutyananda was the dancer, and the rest of the men were singers. Another party was formed by the people of Kandra. These people were singing in different places. In that group, Narahari Prabhu and Raghunandan were dancing. 4 parties chanted and danced in front of Lord Jagannath, and on either side was another party, yet another was at the rear. There was altogether 7 parties of Sankirtan, and in each party 2 men were beating drums. Thus 14 drums were being played at once. The sound was tumultuous, and all the devotees became mad. All the Vaishnavas came together like an assembly of clouds. As the devotees chanted the holy names in great ecstasy, tears fell from their eyes like rain. When the Sankirtan resounded, it filled the 3 worlds. Indeed, no one could hear any sounds or musical instruments other than the Sankirtan. Lord Chaitanya wandered through all 7 groups chanting the holy names. Hare, Hare. Raising his hands, he shouted, Jai Jagannath! Jai Jagannath! Jai Jagannath! Lord Chaitanya then exhibited another mystic power by performing pastimes simultaneously in all 7 groups. Everyone said, Lord Chaitanya is present in my group. Indeed, he does not go anywhere else. He is bestowing his mercy upon us. Actually, no one could see the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Only the most confidential devotees, those in pure, unalloyed devotional service, could understand. Did you hear that? Who could understand? Only those that were in pure, unalloyed devotional service. So that's what that's where we want to get to. Unalloyed, pure devotional service. Nothing mixed. You know? Bhanuswami was relating one time that there's mixture. You can have Karma Mishra Bhakti, you can have Gyan Mishra Bhakti, right? And you can, through this Gyan Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, you can come to love of Godhead. And you'll go to Vaikuntha. But in Gyan Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, there's a place in Vaikuntha where those devotees stay. And in the devotees that come to Vaikuntha from the platform of Karma Mishra Bhakti, they don't actually see the Lord in Vaikuntha. They're in total bliss. They're associating with others. They talk about the Lord, they hear about the Lord, but they don't actually see the Lord. Just like we're all under Prime Minister Modi, but we don't meet him. But we all know about him, but we don't meet him. We talk about him. Modi did this. He's building a highway. You know, he blah, 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 did this, that. But we don't see Mr. Modi, right? And then the devotees in Gyan Mishra Bhakti, I heard this from Bhanuswami. He's a very learned scholar, and I take it for granted it comes from Shastra. The Gyan Mishra Bhaktas, they go to the spiritual world from the platform of Gyan Mishra Bhakti, and they may see the Lord like coming in a parade, may come in a parade, and will see the Lord go. Right? So that's all very nice, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has a different idea. He wants his followers pure, unalloyed devotional service, not mixed with anything. Anya vilasata shunyam. No mixture. Only pure, unalloyed love for Krishna. Why? Because then you can go to Goloka, where Krishna is interacting every moment with his devotees in so many different ways. As a cowherd boy, as a parent, as Krishna's lover, in so many different ways. He's continuously interacting with his devotees. So this is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He came specifically to freely distribute this Krishna prema, and therefore we should take advantage of this movement. The king and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya were both aware of the Lord's activities, but no one else could see the tricks. But no one else could see the tricks of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Only a person who has received the mercy of the Lord can understand. Without the Lord's mercy, even the demigods headed by Lord Brahma cannot understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been very satisfied to see the king accept the menial task of sweeping the street, and for this humility the king received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could therefore observe the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. Purport. The mystery of Lord Chaitanya's activities is described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Lord Jagannath was astonished to see the transcendental dancing and chanting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he stopped his car just to see the dancing. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then danced in such a mystical way that he pleased Lord Jagannath. The seer and the dancer were one, yet the same Supreme Person. But the Lord, being one and many at the same time, was exhibiting the variegatedness of his pastimes. This is the meaning behind his mystical exhibition. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king could understand how the two of them were enjoying each other's activities. Another mysterious exhibition was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's simultaneous presence in 7 groups. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king could understand that also. Although the king had been refused an interview, he was indirectly bestowed causeless mercy. Who can understand the internal potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was playing the part of a world teacher, he did not agree to see the king, because a king is a mundane person interested in money and women. Indeed, the very word king suggests one who is always surrounded by money and women. As a sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was afraid of both money and women. The very word king is repugnant to one who's in the renounced order of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to see the king, but indirectly, by the Lord's causeless mercy, the king was able to understand the Lord's mysterious activities. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities were exhibited sometimes to reveal him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and sometimes to show him as a devotee. But both kinds of activities are mysterious and appreciated only by pure devotees. So time's over, we can stop there. And today is the Lord's journey on the cart, and I think that's out in Mere Road. We're having Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra there on this day, and if you're able to go, please attend. The mercy of Lord Jagannath is readily available on this day. The mercy of Lord Jagannath is sought after by all the great sages and the demigods like Lord Brahma and others. So today the mercy is freely available, and anyone can have darshan and accept the mercy of Lord Jagannath on this day. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Jagannath Swami ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanande.